All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our next lesson here. This is criminal law for 2019 to 2020. Objectives and standards. You will be able to understand the characteristics of a crime, and you will be able to identify different classes of crimes. And take a moment there to look over the standards, please. I'm doing my best to square them or circle them there for you. I apologize if it looks a little messy. Take a look at them, please. And our desired result. What types of crimes can occur? So the actions of crimes. Most crimes require an illegal act by a guilty state of mind. What this means is a person must have intentionally, knowingly, or willfully have committed the crime. Okay, means they did something that caused an illegal action to happen. Okay, carelessness is typically not considered a guilty state of mind. What that means is, for example, let's say you're at work one day and you're working really long hours, and your boss asks you to lock up, and maybe you forget to turn the stove off or something like that, and or the oven, whatever, wherever you're at work at, and you leave for the day or the night, and the building catches on fire. Okay, they can't charge you with a crime because of that. All right, you didn't intentionally mean to set that building on fire, right? That's carelessness, okay? So that could not be considered a guilty state of mind. Now, if you left the oven on or the stove on and walked out of the building and threw a match in there, and the building caught on fire, yes, that would be a guilty state of mind. You meant to cause the building to catch on fire. But just because you accidentally leave the stove on and the building catches on fire, that's not a guilty state of mind. Okay, lawyers use the Latin term mens rea, I believe I'm saying that properly, to discuss this. Now, a state of mind is different from a motive, okay? Motive means the person had a reason for the performance, of the illegal act, okay? So if you have a motive, such as maybe you, I don't know, kill your, best friend because your best friend has millions of dollars in their bank account or something like that, and then you're their beneficiary. That would be a motive, right? If you were going to be given that money because you're the beneficiary, and then you kill that person or poison them to make them, deceased, that would be a motive. That would be, you had a reason to do that, and they would arrest you for that. Now, some crimes also have strict liability offenses. What this means is that a guilty state of mind is not required regardless if the person has knowledge or intent of committing a crime. A good example of this is selling alcohol to a minor if the person did not know the person is underage. So that's why for a lot of times when people go to a bar or they go out somewhere to like a wedding or they go to the liquor store or something like that or the beer store or something like that, try to buy alcohol, they ask for your ID, right? Because the person does not ask for that person's ID. Excuse me, my voice cracked. If the person does not ask for the person's ID, and then let's say the person is 19, 20 years old, and that person sells alcohol to the minor gets in a car accident or does something, or maybe dies from that, and they go back to that store, that location, or that person who sold the alcohol, that person will be charged with a crime. They could say all they want, oh, I didn't know they weren't 21. They're going to say, well, did you check their ID and make sure they are 21? The person's going to say no, and they're going to say, well, you should have known better, okay? You should have known to check their ID and make sure that they were of legal drinking age. Okay, elements of a crime. To convict an offender of a crime, there are certain elements that must be proven, okay? A prosecutor must prove that all elements of the crime were committed beyond a reasonable doubt, along with the state of mind. We have to show the person did something in a guilty state of mind that caused harm or damage or something like that, and that all the facts are there, okay? We have the proof of the weapon, or we have the proof of the drugs, or, something like that. We have their fingerprints at the scene of the crime, or something like that. We have to prove that the person did this crime beyond a reasonable doubt, okay? For example, robbery is the taking of things for monetary value, taking something from a person and using the force to do so. So someone is going to be convicted of a crime, or be convicted of the crime of robbery, the prosecutor has to prove that they took the things for monetary value, they took something from a person, whether it be their wallet, their purse, a television set, a video game system, something like that, and they used force to do so, whether it be breaking a window to get into their house, their apartment, or their car, or they, assaulted the person to take their wallet, they used a gun or a knife to scare the person into doing something, or something like that. Illegal acts can be both criminal and civil wrongs. Remember, criminal laws are usually a little more forceful and a little more violent, and they're punishable by the government. A civil wrong is when you bring something against somebody, usually for a monetary reward, okay? So, for example, a person can be charged with the crime of arson for setting a business on fire, okay? So the government would charge that person for, maybe here in this picture, I don't know if this is an actual crime scene or not, but it was in the textbook, but setting a building on fire, maybe for insurance money or something like that. But then they could also be charged with a civil lawsuit if the owner of the business wants to sue for damages, okay? So you could be charged with a criminal thing of arson, of setting the building on fire. You could also be charged by the person who owns the store for destroying their business and their property. Federal and state crimes. There are criminal laws that exist at both the federal and state level. Sorry about the typo there. It should be 1 period, not 2. Disorderly conduct, simple assault, drunk driving, and shoplifting can only be prosecuted at the state level unless they occur on federal property such as a national park, okay? So these are usually, I don't want to say lesser crimes, but these are crimes that are typically handled by the states and things like that. Now, failure to pay taxes, mail fraud, espionage, which is spying for another government or an outside organization, and international smuggling can only be prosecuted at the federal level because these are more of a national issue. Now, there are crimes that can violate both federal and state laws, okay, such as possession of drugs and bank robbery, okay? So if you rob a bank, you can be charged at the state level and at the federal level. And if you are, selling drugs or have a large amount of drugs on you, you could be charged by the state and the federal government as well. Misdemeanors and felonies. Crimes fall into 2 categories mainly, misdemeanors and felonies. Number 1 here, a misdemeanor. A misdemeanor, sorry about the crazy check mark again. A misdemeanor is a crime that has the potential penalty of a year in prison or less. These are typically, and I don't want to put them all into the same category, but they're typically less serious crimes, okay, such as drunk driving, petty theft, and vandalism. Petty theft means you steal only a little bit of a value of something. Maybe it's a small piece of earring, depending on the value of the earrings. Earrings can be expensive, but if you steal, $50 earrings from Kohl's or Kmart or Sears or something like that, that might be petty theft. Now, if you stole $3,000 earrings from, Kay's Jewelers, or you stole a bunch of jewelry from like Jared, the jewelry store, that might be a felony then because it's a higher amount. Speaking of felonies, a felony is a crime that has the potential penalty for more than a year in prison. And these are typically more serious crimes. You've probably heard of some of these, such as murder, rape, and distribution of drugs. These are usually more violent crimes, more serious crimes, and they are typically more severely punished. Crimes and parties involved. A person who commits a crime is called the principal. I don't want you to think about the principal of our school or anything like that, but they're called the principal, okay? The person who is committing the crime. If a person helps somebody commit a crime, they are known as an accomplice. You may have heard of that word in movies or TV before, but for example, here in this picture, this guy actually looks like he's breaking into somebody's home or business or apartment, breaking open the door and things like that. He would be the principal. He's actually committing the act, right? This guy here looks like a lookout, right? Maybe might be keeping an eye out for police or the people to come home or anybody noticing them. So he would be an accomplice because he's helping the person commit the crime. He's not actually doing it yet, but he's keeping an eye out. He's like the lookout, okay? So somebody who is an accomplice can be charged with and convicted of the same crime as the principal. A lot of times the accomplice will say, well, I didn't shoot the gun, I just drove the car. I didn't go in the bank and rob the bank, right? I just drove the car. I was the getaway driver. Doesn't matter. In the eyes of the law, you helped somebody commit the crime. So make sure you understand that, okay? That if somebody says, come help me commit a crime, you don't have to shoot the gun, you don't have to rob the bank, whatever. I'm not saying any of you would ever be in that situation, but, you know, if somebody says, oh, you're just the accomplice, you don't have to do it, you won't get charged with a crime. Not true. If you are there, if you are present at the scene of the crime, helping somebody commit the crime, you are considered an accomplice and can be sentenced to the same types of penalties, okay? There's two other people involved in a crime. If a person orders another person to commit the crime and is not present at the crime scene, they are known as an accessory before the fact. Sorry, that's a bad check mark. There we go, a little bit better there. One of the examples they gave in the textbook I was looking at, like the mob. Okay, so let's say somebody's a mobster and they're the leader of the mob. They order somebody to go out and shoot or kill somebody. Okay, maybe you know, somebody who doesn't agree with the mobster. They are an accessory before the fact. They're telling someone, hey, go out and kill this person. Hey, go sell these drugs. Hey, go rob the bank. All right, I want the money. Go rob that bank. Okay, they are an accessory before the fact. They are in charge of the crime before it happens. A person who knows of a crime committed by a person and helps them escape or cover up the crime is called an accessory after the fact, okay? So let's say maybe your neighbor or your best friend says, hey, I just hit somebody with my car, I'm high, I'm drunk, can you help me, you know, cover this up? If you help that person either get rid of their car, maybe paint their car, maybe change the license plate, I don't know, you know, different things that people do to cover up a crime. If you help that person cover up a crime, or maybe you help that person escape to like Mexico or something like that, or hide that person at your house from police, you are an accessory after the fact, okay? That's a crime. You cannot help someone cover up a crime. Best advice, if somebody comes to you, they committed a crime, tell them to turn themselves in or get a lawyer or something like that and turn themselves in. Don't ever help somebody, you know, even if it's your best friend or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, whoever, family member, just tell them to call the police, let them know what happened, get a lawyer, and it's better to face it than try to help them get away with it. A crime of omission. Most crimes require a person to do something or act in an illegal way, okay? However, sometimes failing to act, called an omission, is against the law. For example, you can probably talk to your parents about this, or if you have a job, you might know about this. Americans have to file tax returns every year to the federal government, right? If a person fails to file their taxes, they can be charged with a crime, right? Failure to file your taxes, your income tax. This is a crime of omission, all right? Meaning you did not do something, okay? Again, kind of like our last example on our last slide, a person who fails to stop after a car accident may also be charged with a crime of omission. If you have an accident, you have to stop, okay? You have to stop because of that, okay? Sorry about my timer beeping there. But the crime of omission means you can be charged with a crime because of that. You didn't follow the law. Crimes of a preliminary nature. Sometimes a person can be charged with a crime before the action is committed. Okay? These are known as inchoate crimes, okay? And I believe I'm saying that right. These are known as inchoate crimes. Actions that can be punished even if the harm never occurred. You might be saying, what, don't you have to commit a crime for you to be charged with something? Not necessarily, okay? Not necessarily. If two people agree to rob a bank but never go through with the action, they have committed an inchoate crime, okay? If they get the guns, they plan it, they have a map of the bank, they do all these things, and they get ready to go, and maybe at the last minute they say, you know what, I don't want to go through with it. It doesn't matter, because they've already tried to plan a crime that could cause harm or property damage or things like that. So you can be charged with a crime even if you plan a crime, even if you plan a crime. You might have heard this before. Some people say, you know, maybe on the news, The president gets threats, right? And if even if you don't plan to do something, even if that person does not plan or goes through with assassinating a leader or a president, even just talking about it or saying that you're going to go through with it is a crime. There's other examples of examples of preliminary crimes as well, okay? One of these is solicitation. Solicitation is asking another person to commit a crime. For example, let's say Mr. Ein, I made up some names here, chose some random names. Mr. Ein asks his neighbor to murder his boss. Even though his neighbor refuses, Mr. Ein can still be charged with solicitation. Even though the crime never happens, his neighbor goes to the police, says, hey, my neighbor, Mr. Ein, asked me to, kill his boss. That's a crime. That's solicitation. You are asking someone to commit a crime, okay? Letter B here, attempt. Attempt. A person tries to commit a crime but fails in the result. So this example here I came up with, Rebecca tries to steal some clothing at the local store. However, she is caught by security, store security for example, before she can leave. She is arrested by the police and charged with attempting to shoplift, okay? So she didn't get away with the crime, but she did try. When I worked at Kohl's, I think I've mentioned this maybe in our classes, I used to work part-time at Kohl's, and I unfortunately knew of many cases of this where people were, our store security cameras or store security people would catch somebody trying to steal something, and then they would stop them before they leave the store, and they would call the police, and these people would be charged with trying to shoplift, okay? They didn't commit the crime, but they were trying to get away with stealing something, okay? So it's a preliminary crime. We also have conspiracy, okay? This is when two or more people agree to commit a crime, okay? Francis asked his friend Doug to murder a rival drug deal. Sorry, I should say drug dealer. I apologize for the typo. Drug dealer in the next neighborhood, okay? Doug agrees and buys a gun to do so, but he is arrested. Maybe he's pulled over by the police beforehand. They see the gun, they arrest him. Doug agrees, buys a gun to do so, but he's arrested before the murder takes place. They ask Doug why he has the gun. He tells them, my friend Francis wanted me to kill this guy. Both can be charged with conspiracy. Okay, again, before the crime happens, but they are conspiring or agreeing to commit this crime. Okay? All right, so what types of crimes can occur? I know it's a lot of information, a lot of examples. If you need help with any of this, please let me know. But think about the different types of crimes we talked about: misdemeanors, felonies, even state of mind and things like that. Think about crimes of omission, preliminary crimes, all these different things. All right, and that'll help you answer your questions. Please try your best on the questions that follow, and let me know if you have any questions or concerns. And I hope to talk to y'all soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.